Hey, Cypher here. This is the third and final part of a series that I started a little while ago, connecting video games to the Bible. So if you haven't seen either of the previous episodes, click here for the first one and here for the second one. We're going to start off right where we left off last time. So last time we ended with Marie Curie. Most of you have probably heard of her. She's rather famous, even got a few Nobel Prizes. But it is her legacy that we are concerned about today. You see, she found a whole bunch of different elements along with her husband and discovered a new form of energy. That form of energy being radiation. Now, radiation in its normal form is fairly benign. We have it all around us every day, either in electromagnetic radiation or some other form of radioactivity. But it is what creates that reaction. Though Curie never figured out what created that reaction in the first place, she did discover the byproduct. And what radioactivity is a product of is atomic decay. You see, eventually a really high density atom is doomed to decay into a lower density atom. That decay is called fission. With the discovery of radioactivity, a whole new science was spurred up, helped along by the general relativity principle that Einstein had come up with. People quickly glommed onto the idea, and soon there were experiments being done to try to create fission. You see, the interesting thing about fission is that it creates a lot of energy. And the original idea was to put it to good use, but war always tends to get in the way of these things. The first people to start trying to weaponize this process were the Nazis. And eventually the US had to get involved in that war, so we started development of our own weaponization of that process. And we decided to make it into a bomb. We all know of this bomb. It's the nuclear bomb. And the Manhattan Project worked really hard to create that. They made 3 during their time. One was set off in the New Mexico desert, and the other 2, unfortunately, were dropped on Japan, to devastating impact. But we're not here to look at the destruction that these caused, but what it created in its wake. And that was a new age of science. You see, it took a lot of scientists working on this day and night to try to figure out what they had to do. The basis of a nuclear bomb is basically taking 2 chunks of uranium and slamming them together as fast as possible. Slamming them together creates the necessary energy to cause them to fission and creates a chain reaction. To get 2 things to explode at once and on time is quite a mechanical feat. In fact, it's not even a mechanical feat. It's an electronic wonder. And it took a group of scientists working on just the electronic systems. And one of those scientists, in fact one of the lead scientists, is the one that we're particularly interested in today. His name was William Higginbotham. Now, Higginbotham went to use his knowledge of electronics to apply it to the newly founded field of artificial intelligence. He worked in a lab trying to figure out the frontiers of AI. He also, on the side, campaigned against nuclear proliferation. This guy was a busy man, but he wanted to expand the field of computer engineering. So he came up with a nifty little invention to encourage more development and get more people interested in computers. Because at this point in time, there was very slow development. We're talking about the 1950s here. His idea was a little game called Tennis for Two. It was displayed in National Science Expos in 1958 and 59. It was a hit. What's particularly interesting about it is that it kind of constitutes the first video game. Now, the honors for the first graphical video game has to go to a little game called OXO. It's basically tic-tac-toe on a screen. But what Tennis for Two did, in a very rudimentary fashion, was show it off to the world. OXO didn't really get known until well after the fact. For this, Higginbotham became known as the grandfather of video games. Many source their inspiration for Space War and Pong all the way back for Tennis for Two, and we can trace the evolution of video games from that point on. So we've taken this long and circuitous route all the way to video games. We've actually arrived. So we started off with scripture from the Holy Bible, found out that it gave an explanation to the divine right to rule, which led to the Holy Roman Emperors, and many other such emperors, such as Napoleon, who took that crowning that he was going to get from the Pope to his hands and ruined that entire divine right to rule. Of course, he had to be put down anyways, and from the Congress of Vienna that was spawned after his defeat, Russia was able to get a powerful hold on Poland. Now, Poland rebelled against Russia a number of times, and then Warsaw College finally got the right to speak Polish in its own nation taken away, which spurred on the creation of the Flying University, where Marie Curie was taught. She discovered radiation, which allowed us to create nuclear weapons, and that nuclear weapons research was helped along by Higginbotham, who went on to create Tennis for Two. It's a really weird and circuitous route, but eventually you get there. And you'll find that as you look at it, everything is connected in this way. So the next time you're talking about religious influence in video games, talk about its origination. So be sure to hit that like button if you liked it, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Try saying that 5 times fast. Higginbotham, 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 Higginbotham.